to Simple Kicking with your host, James Hairston.
This is a really amazing opportunity to be in Carlsbad, California. Simple Kicking is on the road, safely on the ground here on the West Coast. I'm in a bat cave. I'm in a lair. I'm in a really special place that very few know, but will eventually be many who will know. I am at the Carney training facility run by John Carney himself. Welcome to the show.
James, thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
You know, you've had a Super Bowl interviews, media days with New Orleans Saints, Giants. You're an author of an illustrious NFL career. And here you are with Little Simple Kicking.
No, it's Big Simple Kicking. Big app. Check out the app.
Yeah, we got a little app out there. We almost have 1,000 users. Pretty exciting. But what's got my chili hot, as we say in the South, is being here at this place. So in this podcast, if you don't know who John Carney is, it is my goal for you to know about his career and about this amazing facility that we're at here in Carlsbad, California. So John, let's go ahead and get started with the story. John Carney, the kicker.
Thanks, James. The story. I was a soccer player like many young kickers. That was my passion. Aside from playing the trumpet, my other passion. Went to a high school that did not have a band, so that took care of my trumpet career. And we had a phenomenal soccer program was pretty good, but phenomenal football program headed by Coach Sam Budnick, who is now in the Florida High School Hall of Fame. Phenomenal football coach in the state of Florida, and it was a rite of passage for the young men at our school, Caridnal Newman High School in West Palm Beach, to go through the football program, and really he took boys to men. So I joined the football team thinking I was a receiver. After getting a few splinters on the bench, decided maybe I should kick the ball. I can kick a soccer ball. So that's how I got on the field as a kicker and punter in high school. Never thought it would go past there. Thought maybe I'd play soccer in college, but Notre Dame came knocking. First for a phenomenal running back we had, Alonzo Jefferson, who went on to Notre Dame and just an amazing athlete. And I got to ride to Notre Dame on his coattails as a preferred walk-on, and just had a great experience at Notre Dame. Love the school.
Go Irish.
Go Irish. Have a son and daughter there now. Son's a quarterback on the football team, J.D. Carney, and my daughter starting her junior year there. Very proud of both of them. And then at some point throughout my college career, someone said, hey, this kid could play on Sundays. So I said, okay, well, let's try to make that a goal of mine. And that didn't happen overnight. In fact, it took 3.5 years before a team decided to put me on their roster as the full-time kicker, not their part-time or emergency or camp kicker. And that team was the San Diego Chargers. And so they gave me my opportunity to hang out for more than a game or two, and loved playing for the San Diego Chargers, played for them for 11 years, went down to play in New Orleans for 6 years, and then filled in for some guys that were hurt, guys underperforming, ended up back in New Orleans for their Super Bowl year. Right after I spent a year with the Giants, which was a phenomenal experience. Go G-Men.
Go G-Men.
And got to experience New Orleans, one of those teams that some people think, hey, this team's never going to win a championship, and we pulled it off. Drew Brees and company, amazing run we had in 2009 to cap it off with the Super Bowl victory against the Indianapolis Colts, and kind of ease into retirement. Had a good group of NFL guys, including my good friend, one of my best friends, Steve Weatherford, also a phenomenal NFL punter, won a Super Bowl with the Giants, was one of the best players that day on the field as a punter. And we had a good group of guys training with us every offseason out here in California. And that training took place in my garage in the hills of Encinitas. And easing into retirement, I brought all that equipment out of the garage to save my wife the hassle, and we moved into a warehouse and created CTF, Carney Training Facility, skill-specific training for kickers, punters, and long snappers at the high school, college, and pro level.
That's really cool. There's a lot of nuggets of wisdom here, and the brilliance of John Carney really starts in your grit. I mean, this gym is all about faith, family, and football, but this is about hard work, and it starts from the top. I mean, yesterday, you were running stairs with us young guys. We're half your age, and you're like, you got to get under 10 seconds up like 3 flight of stairs, and I'm sitting here saying, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. I can't let this old guy beat me.
It is about grit, and I have not experienced, not only in the kicking world or punting world, but in the professional sports world and players that I've had an opportunity to play with in the NFL, a player that spent more than, I'll say, 8 years in the NFL that did not have a phenomenal work ethic, a plan, a system, a strength and conditioning program that he stuck to by the letter, but allowed the program to evolve and continue to meet his needs, or her needs for that matter. So that's what we do here. We teach kids, again, ages high school, college, or pro, the other side of kicking and punting, which is strength and conditioning. That's such an integral part of the formula of success, and so many guys get it wrong because they have the wrong information, the wrong coaching, or just they're naive to the fact that this is a part of the system that's going to get them to the level they need to be at and keep them at that level at different age levels, or at age eras, the 20s, the 30s, into your 40s. And
you're a guy over 40. And what's so interesting about you is you defied statistics. You defied the record books. You were a Pro Bowler at 44. My dad was a receding hairlined dad that was driving a minivan for 4 kids at soccer practice on Saturday, and you were hanging out with guys half your age, and you were outperforming them league-wide. So that's why I bring up this very, very important point. The NFL really does stand for not for long. And you were there for long. And so we interviewed Tyler Brown, who's Randy Brown's son. He's special teams coach at the University of Michigan. And we talked then about the difference between getting a job in the NFL versus keeping a job. What's the difference between getting a job and keeping it?
Well, they're both tough. We put a lot of work into getting the job, and the young kicker, punter, or any position for that matter feels like, hey, once I break through that tape and I'm on that active roster, I've made it. I'm good. And as long as I kind of maintain, I'll hang out here for a long time.
And are you saying like practice tape, preseason tape? What kind of tape are you talking about?
Oh, I mean like the tape as if you're going across the finish line tape. Like I finally broke through the wall of tryouts and combines and workouts, and now my name's on the active roster.
Okay.
So that is certainly a big feat, no pun intended. But but once you make it, and this is, I explain this to my young kickers and punters and long snappers. There's the word consistency, and then there's NFL consistency, which are 2 different things. It's not just about being consistent on game day. That's a given. It's about every time you step on that practice field with your NFL team, you appear to be and perform like an NFL player at an NFL level. Does that mean every day, every Wednesday practice, Thursday, Friday practice, that you're going to feel good, that you're not going to have the flu, that you're not going to be tired from the previous day's workout, that you stayed up a couple nights because it was Thanksgiving or family was in town and you needed to entertain them Thursday night, whatever the case may be, you have to prove it day in and day out. You are an NFL player, and that's the consistency teams are looking for. And to be more specific, we go into having A days and B days, or an A ball and a B ball. You're not always, as a player, going to have your A game. You better have a B game to shift down to, and still perform at an adequate level and at an acceptable level for that NFL team. The management, the coaches, and your teammates. And if they see you slip up and you have several days in a row where you're starting to go south, they will make some phone calls. And like you said, it won't be for long.
That's right. So A, Alpha, B, Bravo, C, Carney. You can reach John at Carney Kicking on Instagram or at Carney Coaching on Twitter. Again, this is John Carney. You can reach him also on the web at carneycoaching.com. So you bring up a really, really interesting point. In your career, how did you self-regulate from those bad days, maybe those B days, to get you up to a B+, A-? How did what happened? Is there a story where you had a kick in a game where you crossed that threshold, or what worked for you?
Well, we have to know ourselves as a kicker and punter, and I've been going through this with several of our guys that actually would be competing in a combine for NFL teams within a week. You have to know what makes you tick. You have to know your assets and your liabilities. You want to make sure coaches and management always see your assets, and you're always working on your liabilities. Whatever weak link you have in that chain, you're always strengthening that link, and you do not let those coaches, management know that link exists, and eventually you will strengthen that link to the point where you do not have any liabilities, that everything's a strength. Some are, some assets that you have are stronger than others, but there's no weak link that can really sink you or sink your performance. That being said, we have our swing thoughts, we have our goals, and what we want to do with the ball on a daily basis. 5 months of football, starting in late July, going through January, hopefully ending in a Super Bowl run in early February. That's a long time to have your A game. It's unrealistic that every day you step on that field, you will have your A game. So you find a way to get the job done. When that A game doesn't exist that day, for whatever reason that is, you can downshift, and I can still make field goals. They may not be the most phenomenal field goal in the world. It may not be a field goal that you want to put out on Instagram, but it gets the job done. It may not be the best punt in the world. It may not be a 5-0, 50-yard punt, but it may be a 4-7 on the sideline that works, or I'm turning balls over at 44 yards and no one's hitting the panic button. You still look and appear and perform like an NFL player. And that's the way you last a long time. And, of course, keeping yourself healthy, being smart, on and off the field. I gave up snow skiing. I gave up, motorcycling. I gave up a number of activities on the outside to keep myself healthy on the inside the football lines. A lot of guys shorten their careers because they're a little too high risk in their off-season activities, or they're just not wise enough in their strength and conditioning. They don't take care of their bodies. They're doing exercises that are more apt for a linebacker than necessarily a kicker or punter. And they're just not paying attention to or listening to their bodies. And as we get older, so you look at Adam Vinatieri or Jason Hansen or myself, you get into your 40s, your strength and conditioning program is not what it looked like in your 20s. You are adjusting that workout. You're going less weight, more reps. You're saving your joints. Flexibility becomes very important because that tries to disappear on you overnight. So you got to keep up with your flexibility. And most importantly, your recovery time really slows down. So you have to move all your workouts up maybe a day or two because you just don't bounce back and recover as fast. You'll recover eventually, but you start to focus now more on recovery techniques, whether it's sleep, food, ice tubs, compression, and you start to discover all these new types of recovery techniques to keep yourself recovering and to focus on, I'm training and I'm making sure everything's dialed and calculated in to be 100% on Sunday.
It's fair. It's something like we heard from Tiger Woods after his 2019 Masters victory. I mean, he was waking up at 3-4 a.m. just to get his body ready to hit the golf ball. You had to move up your workout schedule a full 24 hours just so that you're ready on game day. And so you really had a self-awareness. And one word that comes to mind for me is in your career, you had the ability to orient and reorient yourself to stay in that consistent level. But the bottom line, again, is grit. I mean, you put yourself in a situation to be an elite athlete in your mid-40s, and that's phenomenal. The names I think of, Tom Brady, Tiger Woods,
Drew Brees.
He's just turned 41, 42, right? And so there's so much work ethic, and you've got 16-year-olds listening to this podcast, and this is like why you have a title mentor and coach now.
Well, again, if I had a lot of guys that I followed, mentors, coaches, guys that I just looked up to and observed. You can learn a ton of things if you just keep your mouth quiet and shut and observe. If you ever have an opportunity to observe a pro or very accomplished collegiate athlete, go to the game. Don't go to the game and show up when they toss the coin. Get there an hour and a half early and watch those specialists go through their entire pregame warm-up. You're going to see them hit a lot more balls than you will during the course of the game. You'll get to see them go through their whole bag of tricks in pregame. Huge learning experience. And if I can pass along some of the tricks of the trade that I learned and share some of my experiences, both good and bad, and help young specialists get to the level of performance they want to get to and live the dream possibly, then that's my goal.
You know, yesterday we were sitting over here in this couch. Again, this is John Carney, the Carney training facility in Carlsbad, California. We were talking about a decade ago, over a decade ago, when you were at the New York Giants, and Thomas McGahee was the assistant special teams coach, and I had the honor and the privilege to play for him at LSU, and you talked about how he was a guy who really absorbed and really listened and learn from the players. And at LSU, he would tell us, you know, whatever you give away, it makes you grow. And I'll say it again because it's so important. Whatever you give away, maybe it's your talent, your wisdom, your knowledge, experience, all the above, you spread it out in the universe, it comes back to you tenfold. And I read a pretty cool story about you with Alindo Mare. And Garrett Hartley, and kind of that, like you said, you kind of earlier on in the podcast, you talked about how you eased into retirement. And there was a situation where you were really a player coach, a consultant coach in that season, winning the Super Bowl. So much so that you won't take any credit for this. And that's why I'm bringing this up, because this guy is the epitome of humility. If anybody remembers, in that Super Bowl, was it opening the second half against the Indianapolis Colts, Thomas Morstead, an SMU alum, pony up, he had an onside kick, and I would argue maybe 3 months before that kick, he didn't know how to do it.
You would argue that, huh?
Or maybe a year or whatever it was. He did not know how to do that.
Correct.
Until I'm looking at the guy. What's that story? What was that feeling like?
So 2009, the New Orleans Saints gave me a call back right after I finished the season with the Giants. And at the Giants, again, phenomenal experience, one of the best organizations I've played for. Great, you know, from top to bottom. Really enjoyed my experience there. And growing up was my father's favorite team, coming out of New England. So the G-Men. But I was filling in for Lawrence Tynes, great kicker. Became very good friends with Lawrence. Got to kick with him a bunch during that season, and Lawrence went on to have came back the next year healthy and had a phenomenal season the following season as well. So Saints called me up. Garrett Hartley is going to be suspended for 4 games. So they bring me in. You're going to be kicking for 4 games. I said, great. And I hadn't met Garrett up to that point. So kicked 4 games. Garrett comes back. Garrett and I strike up a great friendship and kicking relationship. I actually end up kicking 11 games for Garrett. We plug in Garrett week 12. And Garrett was certainly way overdue and ready to go. And kicked, as we know, phenomenally well. Kicked us into the Super Bowl and set a Super Bowl record, 3 kicks over 40 yards in the Super Bowl, and everything was piped right down the middle.
3 kicks over 40 yards in the Super Bowl.
Garrett Hartley.
Right down the middle.
So, towards the end of the season, we are now Garrett's kicking. They're keeping me active, but he's looking good. And so Sean Payton comes up to me, John, we want you to stay on the team, but we need to add a few guys to our roster going into the Super Bowl run. We don't want you to leave. We know the chemistry with you, Garrett, and Thomas Morstead being a rookie. I was mentoring and coaching and working with Thomas Morstead. We want you to stay. So we want to hold on to you as a kicking consultant. And I was like, I still got gas in the tank. I still want to kick.
Yeah.
And so it's week 14, and he goes, but we got to pass you through waivers. He goes, so there may be some teams that call you, so don't go. So,
Don't go, please.
So the Dallas Cowboys call me.
Hey, John, this is Jerry. This is Jerry.
They got some kicking issues there. So, and I know the coach, Joe DeCamillis at the time, who's
legend,
who's back down at Jacksonville. I got to play for Joe at the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2007 when Josh Scobie got hurt. Loved Joe DeCamillis, one of the best in the business. Calls me up, hey John, you ready to go? Now it's week 14, and I'm like, Joe, if it was week 12, I'm in my car driving your way. It's week 14. I want to start what I finished here with the Saints. I really believe in this team. I'm committed to the team and the specialists, and I'm going to stay put. And he's like, okay, I understand. Not real happy about it. But I thought there might be an issue in Dallas. Something was a little off with the kicking game. Later realized there was something off, had to do with holding and a quarterback, and I won't mention who, but the holding wasn't up to par, and the kickers were having to adjust to that, and that was the issue. And I thought something was going on there. I didn't want to be thrown into that situation and get there, and all of a sudden, we got issues with the operation here. So in hindsight, I think I made the right decision. So I stay on as a kicking coach. The most bizarre thing is I'm released on Monday. I come back Wednesday. I go from a player on Monday to a coach on Wednesday.
So did your locker room change from the player locker room to the coaches?
Is different. And this is kind of funny. I said this to my wife once. I made the mistake once of showering with the coaches. And I almost threw up because not to be weird or anything, but I went from showering with world-class athletes to showering with a bunch of guys that look like Homer Simpson. And I was like, I'm not ever timing that shower again like that. I did get some new cool coaching clothes. I did have to carry a stopwatch around my neck. But outside of that, I just spent 24/7 with the kickers. I continued to kick with them and hang out with them. We watched film together. I continued to lift weights with them. And then I would go to the coach's office at the end of the day and kind of recap what we did, how the guys looked, what we should do the next day, where we're at, and go over film as far as, hey, we're playing in this stadium. This is what we want to do, kickoff-wise, punt-wise, kind of get a game plan with the special teams coaches and get out of there before I got stuck there staying at 10 o'clock at night like most of the coaching staff. But it was a real joy experiencing that side of things. So December rolls around, and we're just messing around on the field one day. I believe our coach McMahon, who's at LSU right
special
now,
teams coordinator.
Coach Mack, phenomenal guy, Greg McMahon, love him to death. I think he said, hey, let's work on some onside kicks. And I'm like, hey, Thomas, try this. So it was an onside kick that I saw Alindo Mare do years earlier.
A little irony here. The guy who replaced you from New Orleans.
Yes.
Right? So outgoing is John. Incoming is Alindo. I think a draft pick was traded for this. So I'm setting this scene up, y'all, because this is the irony. This is the humility. Go on. So you learned this from Alindo, and you're teaching Thomas.
There's even more irony because this is the year 2007. I'm now playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We have a really good team this year, by the way. And we go up to play the Saints at New Orleans. So after playing there for 6 years straight, now I come in as an opposing player.
And this is post-Katrina.
Post-Katrina. This is 2007. Katrina's 2005.
Gosh.
So I come in, and it's 2007. I'm with the Jaguars. Alindo Mare is now replacing me. He's playing with the Saints. And he hits that onside kick. So he hits the outside, spins it up high and to the left. It goes about 10 yards, kind of like spinning like a top, and comes down about 11 yards. They recover. I'm like, wow, I haven't seen that before. I need to remember that.
That's useful.
That can be useful down the road. So now it's 2009. I'm with the Saints, and I'm like, hey, Thomas, let's try this kick. Outside panel, spin it to the left. What makes it so effective is that side of the return team, they see the kicker's leg go downfield so they feel they can take off because the ball's not coming to them.
Sure.
The player's not turning his hips and giving it away. So that's what makes it so effective. And the approach looks exactly the same to them. So, and they don't think anything's coming their direction unless the kicker really turns his hips and shoulders in that direction. So Thomas picks this thing up like within 4 kicks, he figures it out. And we put that in our back pocket. Now we're getting ready for the Super Bowl. Sean Payton comes to Greg McMahon, special teams coach, and says, I want another possession in the Super Bowl. Let's do a fake punt. If you've ever seen Thomas Morstead throw a ball, you'll understand why Greg McMahon said, let's not do a fake punt. But we have this onside kick that Thomas has gotten pretty good at. So Sean Payton named it the ambush.
Ambush.
And Sean Payton had talked to the team and said, we're going to run this, we're going to run this, we're going to run this. I don't know when, but we're going to run it. So sure enough, we go into the locker room at halftime, and he turns to Thomas. Now, remember, halftime's over a half hour. It's a long time, Super Bowl halftime. Turns to Thomas Morstead and says, we're running the ambush to start the second half.
Now, at what point during that halftime did he say it? Was it beginning?
Going into the locker room.
Oh, so Thomas had 30 minutes to marinate with this idea.
Well, Thomas...
Sizzling on the grill. Let me just slow cook this idea. This is going to be the biggest moment of your life, and the city of New Orleans depends on your right leg in the form of an onside kick. Okay, that's a little bit more pressure cooked right there.
You're very dramatic, James. Very dramatic.
It's got to be. It's New Orleans. Who dat say? I mean, I played at LSU. I know how these crazy Cajuns are.
Who dat? So he communicates to Thomas Morstead, we're running the ambush to open the second half. So we walk in the locker room, and Morstead proceeds to sit down in his locker and go into a coma. So doesn't take now. Everybody knows it's over 30 minutes. The majority of the players during a halftime at Super Bowl take off their shoulder pads, change their shirt, eat food, chill out, relax. Thomas has his helmet on, his chin strap is buckled. Okay? He's looking straight forward like a deer in headlights. Greg McMahon, the special teams coach, is trying to talk with Thomas, and Thomas is unresponsive. So Mac comes to me and says, is Thomas okay? So I go and sit down next to Thomas, real casually. Thomas, you okay? And he gives me just a faint nod. And I go, okay, he's okay. And I look at Mac, I'm like, he's good. We're fine. So 30 minutes rolls by. We're getting up. And this is something that Thomas Morstead just reminded me. We just had the anniversary of the Super Bowl a year ago. We went down there. Phenomenal celebration of the Super Bowl victory. By the way, they were playing the Colts that night, and we beat the Colts again. So that week we were in town for the anniversary of the Super Bowl. Thomas reminded me of this, and I forgot about this. When we would practice the kick, I would tell Thomas 10%, meaning 10% swing, hit 10% of the ball.
Sure.
So I knew Thomas was geeked up on adrenaline coming out of that locker room. He reminded me that I turned to Thomas and got his attention and said, Thomas, 1%. Because I didn't want him with all the adrenaline to kick it 20 yards down the field and waste the opportunity. Told him 1%, hit 1% of the ball with a 1% swing. And so credit to Sean Payton. This is how far down the road Sean Payton prepares. And this is amazing that his attention to detail is this good. We're leaving the locker room. Sean Payton gets everybody's attention and says, we're starting the second half with the ambush. I don't want anybody on the sideline watching what's going on the field. You're talking to your coach. You're looking in the stands for your wife.
Wow.
You're drinking Gatorade. You're tying your shoe. I do not want anybody watching what's going on the play.
To tip it off.
Sean Payton goes out. He whispers to the official, this is going to be an onside kick.
Which is a gentleman, it's an unwritten rule, but to always let the referee know.
Right, because we don't want the referee calling someone offsides and the whole deal. So tips off the referee, it's going to be an onside kick. So Morstead goes out and tells Pat McAfee, his good friend who's kicking off and punting for the Colts, I'm smashing this ball through the uprights. Watch this kickoff. This thing is going to be so far you won't even believe it. So Morstead now is feeling his oats, and he's like, okay, I'm playing along with the game now. I'm gonna push this up. So Morstead performs it perfectly. We actually could have got it extremely clean. We didn't. Ball bounces around a little bit. We come out with it, and we go down and score, and it really was a big play. We take the momentum into the second half, and we don't relinquish it, and we come away with the big win for the New Orleans Saints.
And that is that epitomizes humility and epitomizes what mentoring and coaching and what you give makes you grow. So this is John Carney of the Carney Training Facility. He was a 23-year NFL vet. He's one of the only guys to really kick over a span of 4 decades, which is incredible. The other amazing athlete who played into his 40s that I didn't mention after you talked about the Giants was another New York Yankee, Mariano Rivera. Right? I mean, this is the kind of athlete that you're in that class. As we finish this podcast, we got a couple minutes left. I'm looking in the room and I see names on the wall. I see Steve Weatherford, Shane Graham, Matt Bosher, Graham Gano. I see Blair Walsh. I think I see his name over here. I see Nick Novak, Matt Darr. Your wall is littered.
Littered.
This is NFL, like not Hall of Fame, but in our little kicking community, this is a big deal. You've got big names that you've had your hands and eyes on.
Very fortunate, and we really pride ourselves in bringing guys to the next level. And if they're open to learning and open to and have a motivation to put, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, grit. Becoming a champion and holding on to a job for a long period of time at a high level, you better have some grit somewhere in your personality. And Tyler Newsome is a good friend. Tyler Newsome came out of Notre Dame, set all kinds of punting records. Tyler Newsome will actually be here next week. He's trained here before and will be an NFL punter soon, very soon. He likes to call Carney Training Facility the Grit Factory.
The Grit Factory.
The Grit Factory. And it really is. But it's smart training. It's tough training, but it's skill-specific training. And it's a part of the equation that if you get it right for your style of kicking and punting and what you want to do with your game, you can really open up some new doors for yourself.
That's really, really cool. Well, this is going to be the end of this podcast. We're going to have to do this again, Lee. I'm going to come out to San Diego, and we're going to have to do this again because there's too much wisdom that's left in the vault. And as we finish this off, I'm a high school kid, and I'm listening to this podcast, and I heard a lot about NFL. I'm worried about recruiting. I'm worried about technique. Is Carney Training Facility for me? How can I get – is that – something as a high school long snapper, punter, or kicker that I can?
Absolutely. We train here year round.
Okay.
Guys fly all the way. We've had guys from Australia, guys from Hawaii, Canada, you name it. But we're here year round training every week, college, pro, and high school. And we usually have satellite camps around the country. We've done camps in Rhode Island, Kansas City, New Orleans, Florida. And we had, we were going to try to hit Texas this year. We were shut down because of the COVID. We plan to do those in the future. We have some resources for kickers who cannot make it out to me. We can do evaluation through film and Zoom calls. We have which I just handed you the other day, an instructional DVD, which is also, we can send it to you electronically, Kick, Punt, Train Like a Pro, kicking, punting, and training techniques, drills, methods, demonstrations, a lot involved here with Kick, Punt, Train Like a Pro. And we also have an ebook that just came out last fall, the Ultimate Kicker and Punter Strength Program. That has so much meat in it, it'll take you a year to digest it. But what's contained in that program. It's an ebook again, so you can download it onto your device, whether it's an iPad or a phone. You can click on every exercise and get a demonstration from that exercise. But we have 3 off-season workouts and 2 in-season workouts. Again, skill specific for your kicking and your punting. If you don't know what you're doing in the weight room, if your strength coach doesn't know how to coach you, this is a resource you need. Are you going to do every exercise to the letter? Probably not, but you're going to add some exercises and know without the shadow of a doubt that NFL players do this stuff and it works.
That's really cool. 2 names I didn't mention was Nick Folk, who's one of my favorite kickers growing up. Nick is the man, great family guy, totally consistent, calm, cool, and collected. And then Young Wei Koo is another active NFL guy. Again, when I say littered, they're all over the walls. This is John Carney again from the Carney Training Facility. You can find him on Instagram at Carney Kicking, on Twitter at Carney Coaching, and on the web, carneycoaching.com. John, thank you so much. This was truly an honor and a pleasure and really fun to be here. So thank you so much for letting me hang out. A little summer vacation for me, my wife, and my newborn. And this is just really, really cool and quite a blessing. Thank you so much, and God bless.
James, my pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. If you enjoyed the content, join the community by subscribing to the Simple Kicking channel below, or drop a like and maybe a comment. It would be really cool to hear from you. Also, you'll find Simple Kicking on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and yes, even TikTok.